Hello, my name is Morgan Strus-Allen, and today we're going to talk about the science behind mirages. So really, when it comes down to it, a mirage is really just an optical illusion. You might have seen a cartoon or a TV show where there's someone venturing through the desert for days on end without food and water, and then all of a sudden they miraculously stumble upon a sparkling pool of water. But of course, there is no real water there, and it's all an illusion. So the question is, what actually causes these illusions? Well, we're going to talk about it. So while we usually think of water when we think of mirages, water really has nothing to do with mirages at all. They're caused by light rays that curve differently based on the air's temperature. We know that hot air is less dense than cold air, and this difference in density affects the speed of photons, or light particles. Because of the difference in density, photons will travel through warm air faster than they'll travel through cooler air. Light usually travels in a straight line if the ground and the air are the same temperature. But if the ground is hot and the air is cool, as in the case of a mirage, there will be a temperature gradient, meaning density of the air will affect the path that light travels on. Because of this temperature gradient, light will follow a curved path instead of a straight one. When the human brain observes this, it doesn't really understand that we're looking at refracted or bent light. We just assume we're looking at light following a straight path. Because of this, what we're interpreting as a pool of water is actually just a reflection of the light from the sky. Now, what you may not know is that there are two types of mirages: inferior mirages and superior mirages. What I just explained is what happens during an inferior mirage. As we talked about, these happen when the air is cooler than the ground and the objects or light appear below where they're actually located. You can see these in the desert, the road, the airport tarmac, and even the hot sand at the beach. A superior mirage happens when a reflected image of an object is reflected above where the object is located, hence the name superior. In this picture, a ship appears to be floating above the water and also looks much larger than it actually is. But what causes this illusion to occur? Unlike inferior mirages, superior mirages happen when the ground or water is colder than the air above it. The cause is basically the same as that of an inferior mirage, except now light rays are bent downward instead of upward. A temperature inversion is necessary for a superior mirage to occur. This happens when there's a deviation from the atmosphere's normal temperature gradient. The temperature gradient causes the light to bend downward to get to the denser, colder air. This type of mirage is also usually more stable than inferior mirages, since cold air does not move upward and warm air does not sink downward. This diagram might give you a better idea of what I'm trying to explain. You can see the cold water on the bottom and then the warmer air up at the top. We can see the refraction of light bending downwards toward the colder water. And you can see the little guy observing all of this. You can see his brain doesn't understand that he's viewing bent light, so he thinks he's viewing it traveling in a straight line again, just like an inferior mirage, and so he sees this boat above where it's actually located. A rare and more complicated variation of a superior mirage is the Fata Morgana. Fata Morganas happen in very specific conditions. The temperature inversion must be very strong, and temperature of the air must rise with altitude, which it doesn't normally do. These conditions cause light rays to be magnified, multiplied, with alternating erect and inverted components, and distorted, which causes distorted apparitions of objects to appear. The Fata Morgana is named after Arthurian legend Morgan Le Fay, who was known to use her magical powers to create mystical apparitions of castles and lands that didn't actually exist. It's also thought to possibly explain the legend of the ghostly Flying Dutchman ship. Sailors in the 18th and 19th centuries would sometimes claim to see a large ship that appeared to float above the ocean in a ghostly manner. It was thought to be a bad sign of impending death and doom at sea. While sailors back in the olden times didn't have a scientific understanding of mirages, they chalked it up to curses of the sea and supernatural forces. However, we now have the knowledge to know what was probably actually happening. That concludes my presentation on mirages. I hope you learned something new about the science behind what causes a mirage and the different types. Thanks for watching.